Welcome everyone watching and listening. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Miss YaYa.
And I'm Zeitlin Perez.
We are well into our third season, and we are extremely excited to continue to bring dynamic stories from mujeres emprendedoras like ourselves.
That's right. That is right. And from men who work with or have been influenced by women in their lives también. Because, everybody's welcome. We are inclusive.
Everybody, everywhere.
Everybody, everywhere.
Everybody, everywhere. We've had amazing guests and more to come. You already know. So remember to subscribe to and share episodes from our first two seasons. We greatly appreciate the support.
Yes. And speaking of great guests and dynamic stories, today we're getting to know Mellicent Dyane, a film and television casting director with over 30 years of experience.
All those years of working for other casting agencies gave her the push to go independent and open her own agency, Dyane Foster Film, Casting, and Television.
She continued to expand her credentials as a scriptwriter, producer, and director, now with 2 upcoming projects of her own.
Let's welcome Mellicent Dyane.
Hola, 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 mi gente.
Mellicent, thank you so much for being here with us today. How has this past year been for you during this pandemic?
Well, first of all, thank you, ladies. To be honest with you, this past year has actually been very good, meaning that in 2014, I took a leap of faith and I became a director. And prior to that, and I still have my casting company. I always will have my casting company because I've been a casting director for 30 years. Prior to that, though, you're always doing other people's projects. But this pandemic time, it has stopped me. The Lord has been telling me, you need to just now focus on you, Mellicent. And I've been able to get my documentary finished. I'm able to continue to work on my animated TV series, a biopic that I'm directing about an inspirational, unique inventor. I'm able to do my projects for my company, for me as a filmmaker. And I'm taking full advantage of the time by putting my creative juices to full speed ahead.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you to jumping right in. And it's something that was inevitable. I'm sure that pandemic or not, it was going to catch up to you at some point or another to get on board with your own projects. And you were kind of already in the steps of that, but we're going to get to that, but we're going to take it back. So where were you born, Mellicent? Where were you born and raised?
I was born in San Germán, Puerto Rico. I'm a native Puerto Rican, but I was raised, strangely enough, in Maine. There ain't no Puerto Ricans in Maine. Don't ask me why. We lived a little bit. We lived for a while in Brooklyn, but my junior high school years we were in Maine, and I also lived in Louisiana for elementary. It was just we were sort of nomads, the typical Latino family that would just kind of travel around. But yeah, I would say predominantly my most place where I would say I was raised would be in Maine, where that's where I kind of graduated from high school in Maine, and I literally was the only Puerto Rican in my class, the only Latina in my class.
Maine, that's interesting. May I ask, how did your family end up in Maine?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if you guys know the history of Puerto Rico and what was happening with women and little girls and sterilizations. Well, my mom, there's 8 children, and 6 of her children are women or girls. So she really kind of wanted to make it a point to kind of get us out of there, number one. Number two, after the separation with her and my birth father, she decided, she always wanted to leave the island. And in leaving the island, he suggested, well, go to Maine because it's a great place to raise children. It's a great place for daughters. And he had family. We had some in-laws there from his side of the family. And so we ended up there.
In college, I took a class where they talked about the sterilization of women in Puerto Rico and how women were experimented on with the birth control pill, the first batch of birth control pills, and all the medical problems that came from it. That's a whole nother episode. What's one childhood memory that always sticks out to you that kind of is recurring in your adult life?
Wow, that's a very good question. I would say being down by the water in the lake playing with my cats.
Okay.
I'm a water sign and I love water. And
what sign are you?
I'm Cancer. So for me, I find water very purifying, very cleansing, very spiritual. So, I would just say and I used to have, people can look at me like, is she bananas? I used to have 21 cats when I was a little girl.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, when you said being by the lake with my cats, I'm thinking, Z, how many did you think? Maybe one,
Maybe
two.
Not 21 though.
And 2 of them were sets of Siamese.
Okay. That's so interesting. Like, you don't hear that every day. So let's then talk about how you began your career in entertainment as a freelancer for AT&T in California while studying business and sports communications at Los Medanos College, right? What was that aha moment that made you want to be a cast director?
The aha moment to make me want to be a casting director was when I realized that I was in AT&T. My boss at the time, God rest his soul, he's the reason why I have this career, said to me, look, Mel, I need to get some cute friends. We're doing this in-house casting job. Just call some of your friends down. I was like, you're doing a what? I didn't even know what casting was. And I was like, okay. So I wasn't one of those casting directors that worked into somebody. I kind of was thrown into the fire. But being that I'm blessed to be a quick learner, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with the flow. If you have any questions, I'm not ashamed to ask. Very strong, independent Latina, even at a young age. So one thing led to another, and then they developed a department for me. Realizing that I love sports. And one of my degrees, I have, outside of having an AA, I work in sports communications. I want to do sort of the Latin version of Robin Roberts, right? And back then, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm 54 years old. So back then, in the late 90s, early 90s, or late 80s and 90s, there were no women sports anchors, no women doing any sports. Robin Roberts was the first one, right? So I wanted to pursue myself and kind of trying to do stuff in the sport. Plus, I also realized, here's some good advice. When you work in corporate America and you want to start your own business, because I figure I'm making this corporate conglomerate thousands of dollars, I could kind of do it for myself. So I would stand by the fax machine, see what kind of stuff would come in. I took my Rolodex when I decided to leave, but I left amicably. And the first thing I grabbed was my Rolodex because I said, I'm going to start my own company. And if it doesn't work, the door was always open. I could always go back. I made it a point to keep it like that. And 27 years later, I'm still not back.
Excellent. So we always say, at least for our experience, YaYa and I have always kind of like touched this topic that relationship is key. And having those contacts, having those relationships, and understanding that they're important and that they could be the turning point for whatever you're trying to pursue, right?
Absolutely. And that's reputation and relationship is number one, because especially being a woman of color and a Latina, and now even as a filmmaker, it is imperative. It is my utmost first thing that I will make sure that I do is first impressions, because they do last forever, and my relationships that I have, because the relationships that I've had 30 years ago, I still have to this day. And those relationships that I have, going back to that Rolodex, but now it's a cell phone Rolodex, when I took the leap of faith as a director, I'm now looking through that same Rolodex on my cell, and those relationships are assisting me in my career and moving forward as a director. So it's like we've come full circle. I'll give you a perfect example. My producer for all of my films used to be my assistant.
And she must have been a great assistant to get bumped up to be working side by side with you now.
Oh yeah, she's phenomenal. I'm learning from her. She's the teacher and I'm the student.
Amazing that was your initiation into becoming a casting director. You've worked with Ava DuVernay, amazing movies that have come out. It's mind-blowing. And then from there, you went on to start your own casting agency, booking talent for TV and film. But now, fast forward even more a little bit, you're now directing your own projects, 2 of your own projects on the way, which are Paula's Story, a documentary about your mother surviving heart disease, and then also Mompreneur, based on a true story, which is a biopic about a female inventor. So tell us why each story is important for you to share.
Well, I'll start with my mom. You see what I'm wearing? Do you know what this is? It's a red dress.
The dancing salsa emoji? No?
No, see, and you guys, you beautiful Latino women and women all around globally and men in the entire world who have no idea what this pin is symbolic for. It's the red dress pin, and it's the movement for heart disease. It's the symbolic symbol for heart disease. You know how the pink ribbon is for breast cancer? This is for heart disease. In 2014, our lives changed. Our mom had triple bypass heart surgery. She was 80 years old at the time. And once you've seen what your mom has gone through, when you see your mother's, and I'm going to be a little graphic here, but it's important for me to understand the importance of my film. But once you've seen what your mom's gone through and you've seen your mother's chest slice open, sternum to abdomen, you kind of have a bit of a revelation. So in that happening, I was so blessed through the Lord that having a wonderful staff, that the entire year of 2014 going into a little bit into 2015, I became my mom's primary caregiver. I stayed because I refused to come back home to New York, to Brooklyn, until she lives in Maine, until I knew that she was able to be mobile again, because she had to learn how to use her body all over again. And seeing what she's gone through, I had an awakened dream, if you know what that is, a conversation with God. And he told me, you need to tell your mother's story, because I feel like it happened to her for me to be able to start my next life that he has for me, which is a director. And this was sort of my plateau. And after getting permission from her to wanting to tell her story, you know, she took a while, and I convinced her. I said, Mama, if I can get through to one person about the importance that the heart is the number one, the most important organ in the human body, because without that heart, nothing else moves, nothing else can go, because when the heart goes, you kind of go. She was like, okay, sure. So I decided to just tell her story, to spread, you know, through this cute little Puerto Rican woman. She's 8 today. Today is actually her birthday. Today's my mom's 87th birthday. So happy birthday to my mommy. I'll be calling her after I get done with this. When I seen her like that, and inspired me to just want to tell the story and spread awareness, not only on the debilitating disease of heart disease, but this red dress, so that people can actually all know. I want the red dress to be as equally as important and as globally known as the pink ribbon. Because there's a lot, and especially women of color, because it really, really, really affects Latinas and African-American women. And we shot my film in Puerto Rico, and in talking to this doctor, one of the number one cardiologists on the island, Dr. Carlos Nieves, when he told me that the statistics of heart disease on the island, I almost fell out of my chair. I had to stop for a second to take a deep breath. And it stems back to our diet. We love pork, we love carbs, we love salt, we love sugar, you know? And people have no idea how, most importantly, coffee is not, do not believe the hype, coffee is really not that good for your heart. My mother had been drinking coffee since she was literally a baby. My abuela, she would, instead of putting milk in her bottle, she would put coffee in her bottle. So the first thing that her cardiothoracic surgeon told her, Paula, you need to stop drinking coffee, go to decaf. My mom was having withdrawals, stopping to drinking coffee. And again, this is all part of me spreading awareness on the disease, on the pin, on diet, on us being Latin women, and what we need to do to protect our heart.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to watching the film and seeing that takeaway, because we don't connect sometimes that our diet has a lot to do with everything, and it's so ingrained in our everyday lives.
That's absolutely true. And to just kind of continue with that, I believe, and I have to double check my statistics, I believe it's 1 in 3 women will die of heart disease, 1 in 31 women will die of breast cancer. That's unacceptable.
Wow. It definitely needs to be spoken about more. If that's a big difference between breast cancer and heart disease. And breast cancer, I can imagine, is something that is most times unavoidable. Heart disease is completely unavoidable, because you can watch your diet, you can be mindful of what you're putting into your body. The thing with us as Latinas is that food is at such the heart of our culture. Every holiday, every family gathering, and we talk about eating what makes us happy more than eat, which is most of the time not good for us, more than it is to eat healthy. It's easier said than done, but it's very important that this message is spread, and kudos to your mom. God bless her for wanting to share this story, because we can imagine it's not easy for you seeing her go through it, and for her who's actually going through it.
Yes, and thank you, ladies. And if my mom, who's an 80-year-old Puerto Rican woman, can change her diet, stop an addiction, i.e. coffee, anybody can. I don't care who you are. So yeah, I really believe that her story is really just going to sort of be the number one contributing factor in the message that I'm trying to get across. And then moving on to Mompreneur, it's a wonderful story about, it's a complete 360. This is about a modern Orthodox Jewish woman who has 3 gold medals in jiu-jitsu. She's a vice president of her PTA, and she invented a sex toy. I wanted to see your reaction. Well, we call it a pleasure product in the film and in the pitch deck. We call it, to be more respectful, we call it a pleasure product. Think of it more like a journey of a powerful expression, of a woman taking control of her own narrative, showing the intelligence and the sexuality that sort of breeds within all of us, while a chauvinistic society continues to try and keep us boxed in our own lane and feel comfortable with ourselves. No. So this story is really about the multifacetedness of her. And I agree, one of the first things that I agreed to take it on, I thought they wanted me to cast it at first, but when she said she wanted to direct it, I was like, yeah. So, but I agreed to take it on. And Maureen is wonderful. I mean, we've become so close in the past year. If she would let me to, on one main condition, which is to hire an all-female crew, multicultural female crew, including our LGBTQ community, because I really feel that with a multicultural cast, multicultural crew, we can maintain balance of how we can all coexist and collaborate as a team. Because team is spelled with an E, not an I.
Yes, 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 and yes. It's so important because everybody has a voice, everybody has their own experience, and everybody in some way can identify with the story. Or if not, is a motivation for it, because what a narrative of this female living in this life and then takes a plunge for something that is so outside of what the norm in their society or community is. It's, though we don't share maybe the same faith, but our cultures are like that sometimes. We feel that we're boxed in, that we have to abide by this submissive role. And I think that it's so awesome that you are taking that narrative out there. And not only that, involving all these different people that can put their little 2 cents in, and that makes it such a complete story. I love that. And representation is key. Talk to us about, what are your thoughts of Latino representation in Hollywood? Is it still lacking? What do you feel needs to happen so we see more people like us?
Before this podcast, I'm a member of New York Women in Film. We had a night of talks with a wonderful, wonderful woman by the name of Leah Maroff, and she's the founder of Femme Fatales. And she says this great quote, that the advice that she got from Kim Pierce, who is the director of Boys Don't Cry. Don't wait for permission to give yourself permission. Now, and I agree with that, but I will add to that, the first thing you got to do is build a team, build your creative team, keep that team, because if it works, you don't want to break it. Build your tribe, build your community, onward and upward, and maintain a creative spark. Like I said earlier, my creative sparks came out full speed in the time of COVID. So don't be afraid. I will tell you this, for Paula's story, for my documentary, and for my animated TV series, which I would love to tell you about, but because I'm still sort of working on it, unless you want to sign NDAs, I'll tell you. but it is pretty phenomenal. Well, that'll be the next podcast. So representation in Hollywood or in the world as far as Latinos, we do need to have more, but believe it or not, there is a lot out there. There's a lot, like Ava Longoria has an amazing production company. Salma Hayek has a wonderful production company. I mean, I could go on and on. There's a lot of folks that have first looks, at different studios, at the NBC, Universal. And trust me, being a woman filmmaker and being BIPOC, we are hot right now. I hate to say this, but I'm going to keep it real. The Me Too movement, I believe, along with so many other facets, helped the world and the world of entertainment see how women are equally, if not better, creatively and telling stories and getting things done than they could even have thought of. And on the streaming services and on shows, Latinos being represented, we're no longer the housekeeper or the maid or the assistant. We are the best friend. We are the lead actors. J-Lo, like I said, J-Lo, Ava, Selma, Rita Moreno. Let's just go back. Let's just talk about she's the only woman. She's the only actor in the world that's got she's won all. She's won an Emmy, a Grammy, a Golden Globe, an Oscar. She's Puerto Rican. All right.
That's called an EGOT. Someone who has an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And I believe she's the only Latina, but that's okay. There's more coming. She, to me, is like an absolute, door opener. She opened that door and she still does. And there's so many others that's opening it for us. And so I feel like we have a dent, but we need to still push through. And if it is the Lord's will for me to be able to, on my perspective, to do what I'm doing, then whatever part I have to do to help us push through as a Latina filmmaker, I will. Because right now we are hot. Women filmmakers, especially women filmmakers of color, we are hot. And I think now's the time. I'll tell you a quick story. You ever had a time where you just needed a mental break from the industry? Because you're so blessed, you're so grateful. So I did 7 days several years ago. I treated myself to a bed and breakfast somewhere out it's gonna sound like I'm being bougie, like in the Hamptons. It's not my intent. And I needed just a mental break. The specific place that I picked, again, by water. Every morning after the breakfast, I walked to this dock. At the end of the dock was a bench. I sit on the bench. I have a conversation with God. I cleanse myself. I pure myself every morning for 7 days. Just clear my mind, just clear the clutter. And I said, I'm ready to do this full time, Lord. I would have never thought 3 weeks to that day was when I got Mompreneur and the other 2 films that I've been asked to do. And I've been asked to direct a docuseries.
It's the power of manifestation. It's the power of saying, I am ready. I am here and I am ready. So, God is gracious. When you do what you do, he's like, oh, you ready? Okay, girl, bam. and there it is. And I think that is such a beautiful thing.
I think it's an easy transition for a casting director to move into a director. It's an easy transition for us because we're already directing actors in the sessions anyway.
Yeah.
We know actors because we're casting directors. So you just now, instead of being controlling of one department, you now are working with an entire crew, an entire set. And again, for me, it's all women and women of color. And I find that very liberating, very, very liberating. And that's why I say I am blessed and highly favored, because I really, really am.
Amen. It's beautiful that you see it, you receive it, you embrace it, and it shows. It definitely shows. I mean, your journey speaks volumes, and I can imagine it hasn't always been easy. And we're all about wellness and self-care here at Sistah Sistah. So what do? You mentioned that you took 7 days to take a break and reconnect with God and with yourself. But on a regular basis, what do you do when you reach a roadblock or when you have self-doubt? What do you do to get back to your center?
Hey, first thing I will do is pray. Each morning, my cousin Tito, I got to give him a shout out. Tito Flores, God bless him. He actually taught me this sort of a list of being grateful. And you start up with 5 things. Next thing you know, you're doing 10 things. Next thing you know, you're doing 20 things. So what I try to do every morning is take 10 minutes for me, I have on my cell phone my grateful list, which is getting longer. And I thank God for that. I have to have my prayer moment. And then I grab the Bible. I read a chapter in the Bible because the Bible is the most complicated, contradicting book in the world, but it's the most amazing. My relaxation, my thing for my health is to just clear the clutter in my mind. Be still. It's a form of meditation. And then once I can clear that clutter, because it can even affect your sleep, and just be still and breathe, then I can be okay, onward and upward. There's this phrase that the doctors and my mom, when my mom went through, was through her rehab with the cardiac nurses, and I use this in my everyday life. Once you've gone through triple bypass or any kind of heart surgery, and you're in your post-op rehab, they always tell you, smell the roses, blow out the candles. It's amazing how much it really just calms you. Focus, relax, full speed ahead. Keep my heart healthy, keep me healthy. And because in COVID, you're sedentary. And I found myself being quite sedentary. It's okay, you got to get your ass up and move around. Early in the morning, it just gets my day going. After I do my meditation, my prayer, my exercise, at least Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that's my routine. Tuesday and Thursday is no exercise, but that keeps me going. And I do love walking. I love walking.
It really does help. And I've noticed, especially during this pandemic, that the days that you don't make yourself active, you don't move around, the days you don't at least walk beyond the refrigerator, around the house, that it can affect you. And I've noticed it when it's too late and I've already chewed off a few heads. So yeah, it makes sense to just consciously tell yourself, get up. And that's great that you make a conscious effort to do that on a daily basis.
Another thing that changed my life, that helped me with your question, like what do I do in health perspective, this whole situation with my mom, I'm now a vegan. Like I'm a real vegan. And Latina, I mean, and it was interesting to me that, I actually became a vegan because when I got diagnosed with osteoarthritis, it turned me on to this documentary entitled Forks Over Knives, and that single-handedly changed my life. And I became vegan cold turkey. And my mother's like, this is Thanksgiving of 2004. She said, what do you expect me to cook? I don't know how to cook vegan food. I don't know nothing. I was like, Mom, I'm a teacher, all right? She said, ay, Dios mío. So she was just like, I got to keep con pollo. I was like, no, I can't eat that anymore, Mommy. Traditional Spanish dinner. But that helped me as well, because seeing her and then being diagnosed with that, it changed. I mean, I don't even eat honey. I'm a real true vegan, and I don't miss it. And it's made my hair look nicer, it's made my skin look nicer, made me feel healthier.
How long did it take for you to like finally feel okay with being vegan? Because I've tried it, and I have friends of mine that have tried it, and then after a while they're like, I can't take it, I need bacon. How long did it take you for you to feel comfortable with this new lifestyle?
Not long at all, mi amor. I would say a few months after, just because again, this documentary, let me ask you guys a question. When you hear the documentary Forks Over Knives, what do you think it's about?
Well, Forks Over Knife is like, I'm done.
No. Forks over what you eat, knives of cutting yourself open for heart surgery. Hence the knife.
Graphic now.
Yeah. And I recommend everybody check it out. But I would say a few months, because my osteoarthritis was so severe back then in 2014. And diabetics have to watch their A1C. Arthritic patients have to watch our blood count. And mine, and I again, pardon me if I'm not getting these statistics correct, but I don't think it's supposed to be over 25 or 34, something like that. Mine at that time was like at like a 300. My hand was swollen like a baseball, and I could barely walk, and I was walking with a cane. I was too young for my body to be like this. I was like, no, I'm not going to live my life like this. And that's why, to answer your question, I made it a point to kind of adjust my taste buds and my body as quick as possible. And as of last year, latter part of last year, I'm down from 300 to 75, and all from not taking any conventional medicine, all from diet, Chinese herbs, and exercise. I am living, walking proof that you can do it.
I love that. I love that. Se puede. Sí se puede. As long as you have the determination and the will. And the thing is that now this lifestyle is coming around a lot more for all of us with the help of social media and streaming and things like that. What is it? Tabitha. She's that vegan cook that makes things yummy and stuff, and her energy is kind of dope. So those are kind of cool stuff. So this is such a good time for people to start understanding that there are options out there. Not everything is for everyone, but vegan is for you, and it gave you the results you needed to get you back on track. And that is a aplauso for you, my lord. Yes. So, Mellicent, guess what?
What?
It's time for rapid fire questions. We have this game that we do that you have 30 seconds to answer the first thing that comes to your mind in 30 seconds. Are you ready for this?
Sí.
In 3, 2, 1.
Morning or night person?
Night.
Warm beaches or snowy mountains?
Warm beaches all day, every day.
Audiobooks or paper books?
Paper books.
After getting to know you right now, cafe or tea? We kind of know now.
Tea, decaf.
Decaf tea.
Netflix and chill or let's go on an adventure?
Let's go on an adventure.
And your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
A good one. It's a good one.
I love it.
You can't go wrong with it. It means so many things.
And you can use it in so many ways. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Mellicent, thank you so much for checking in with us today. Tell our viewers and listeners when and where they can expect to see Paula's story and Mompreneur.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully theaters and streaming services, theaters, if they open back up one day soon. But, we're at Mompreneur, we're in the very early development stages. So that was sort of developing all that. Paula's story, I'm in post-production. So I would, either way, you'll either see it in streaming services, definitely festivals, and social media, because I plan on having massive marketing for both films globally.
I love it. So with that said, so tell us the social media handles, emails, websites. So if in case they do want to learn more, they can just find you.
Thank you. Well, all of my social media handles are very simple. It's @Call Me Mellicent. So they're all the same. Twitter, IG, Instagram. My Facebook is just my name, Mellicent Dyane, but it's spelled uniquely, which is MELLICENT That's my Facebook. And we do have Paula's Story is Paula's Story, the movie that's still being worked on. Mompreneur, because we're in development, we don't really have a website yet, but we are creating one. Momp or Mompreneur, the movie. And it's spelled like Mompreneur, like entrepreneur, but you take it out and you put MOP.
Awesome. We cannot wait to see it. Thank you. It was such a pleasure. And thank you so much for giving us the awareness of the heart disease. Obviously, your biopic is going to have what that personal experience was for your mom. But thank you for giving us more pointers on that. Y mi gente, the health is the only way. That's all we got.
Health is wealth. Don't wait for a scare to get it together. But although sometimes it takes a scare, either someone we know or ourselves. Either way, whatever it is, let's get our health on track.
Every day is a chance. It's a new day to commit.
And if I may close, I will tell everybody, protect your heart.
Yay!
Hey, hold on.
Mellicent, you are officially a
Sistah Sistah.
Mi amorzote. Thank you so much.
Gracias, mi amor.